Today's episode of the Watson Weekly Podcast is sponsored by Commerce Tools.
Make sure your brand and your business is ready for the trillion-dollar e-commerce market. Commerce Tools, the global leader in commerce and creator of the powerfully composable Mock architecture, can help you achieve bite-sized wins or upsized achievements faster than ever. Whether you are looking to reduce maintenance costs for legacy systems or put the power of AI to work for you quickly, Commerce Tools is your partner for commerce success. Go to commercetools.com to learn how to get started.
It's April 22nd, 2024, and this is the Watson Weekly, your essential e-commerce digest. Today on our show, confusing economic signals in 2024. Shein faces new class action lawsuit. GoPuff partners with Shopify to help CPG brands. Macy's kicks off its store closings. And finally, the Investor Minute, which contains 5 items this week from the world of venture capital, acquisitions, and IPOs. But first, in our shopping cart full of news, confusing economic signals in 2024. A new set of data came up recently, and I wanted to share some of it with you guys. First, here are the bull items from the data. The U.S. Commerce Department released new data last week that indicated in the month of March, total retail sales were up 5% year over year, led by general merchandise sales being up 10%. So-called non-store sales or e-commerce is up almost 6% year over year. Clothing and accessories were up more modestly at 3%. Even if you take out inflation, this is better news than in 2023. In fact, a senior bank rate analyst confirmed that analysis. On the other hand, here are the bear items. While many categories were up, not all were. Furniture and home categories were down 8% year over year in March, according to the U.S. Commerce Department. The NRF, which uses credit card data to talk about retail trends, had a little bit different take on retail, which matched Amazon's take, which I'll talk about it in a second. In other words, despite buying more, consumers are focused on value. Retailers, as a result, are having to keep prices as low as possible. As if to reinforce the NRF data, Andy Jassy appeared on CNBC and gave what I consider consumer warnings. It sounded like we're in an early 2023 time warp where he was saying many of the same things about consumers trading down to cheaper options when it's available. He was clear to emphasize the consumer was spending, but what they're spending on is changing significantly. What do I think about all this? First, inflation is not tamed. That much is clear. And if inflation is not tamed, then interest rates are not moving. As long as interest rates are not moving, then the housing market is not moving too fast, which hurts the entire home goods and home improvement sector. Furthermore, higher housing costs means that people's pocketbooks are being squeezed since that's one of people's biggest expenses. I would pay attention to Andy Jassy's comments on the state of the consumer in this sense. After all, who has more economic data about e-commerce buyers than Amazon? Our second story. Shein faces new class action lawsuit. A story from Retail Touchpoints indicates that ultra-fast fashion retailer Shein is facing a new class action lawsuit, and the circumstances of the lawsuit are interesting. The plaintiff is an artist and designer who's made a living in the last 30 years licensing his work to products. Well, apparently not to Shein. The man had a painting which is the subject of the lawsuit that Shein has copied his art designs and placed them onto clothing without his permission. The designs certainly look similar to his. Lawyers, smelling blood in the water, have turned this into a class action lawsuit saying that the number of people this has affected is in the tens of thousands. The lawsuit calls it an industrial scale scheme of digital copyright infringement. I mean, the question is not as if this lawsuit is correct, which, almost how could it not be correct? Shein turns out thousands of designs daily, and where the hell do these designs come from? Likely artistic work created by someone found online or elsewhere. The lawsuit then goes on to claim that Shein has the cost of this copyright infringement lawsuits built into its business model, and so it doesn't appear the practice will be ending anytime soon. The real question is then, how can this kind of practice be stopped ever now that the genie is out of the bottle? Our third story. GoPuff partners with Shopify to help CPG brands. GoPuff has announced that it launched a storefronts program to help the brands in its fulfillment network launch their own D2C sites, fulfilled by GoPuff. In a practical sense, if the brand is not already selling on GoPuff, it is not likely to attract a ton of new interests. For large CPG brands, the benefits are simple, even if the direct-to-consumer volume overall won't make up a significant percentage of overall sales. Small does not mean always unimportant. Here are the benefits: getting more consumer data, testing unique and promotional merchandise, doing something special and bespoke for events, even if direct-to-consumer volume overall won't make up a significant percentage. And there is low commitment level for the brand. For Shopify, this does a few things. First, it creates a new relationship with a CPG brand, likely at a large holding company like a Unilever, P&G, etc. This relationship gives them access. As near as I can tell, this is also one of the first examples of a reseller-type partnership for Shopify. Clearly something that design and development agencies and even consultancies do all the time. It also creates a new type of fulfillment partner for Shopify and sets a model for the how of logistics they should have been doing all along, integrating with every type of logistics provider there is. Because logistics is unique, category dependent, and low margin, which is completely the opposite of the normal Shopify business, i.e. universal, generic, and high margin like software. Finally, it also demonstrates an instant store use case for enterprise, which is a fit for Shopify's capabilities. And it gets them away from silly, costly enterprise sales cycle, which the Shopify organization will find more difficult to penetrate. For GoPuff, unfortunately, it's interesting but not transformative. This is an incremental capability for new customers and perhaps makes their app a little stickier for brands. And after raising over $3 billion, GoPuff is still a niche player relative to Instacart, DoorDash, and Uber. And there isn't any room for another player in the market. Growth there has likely stalled, and this is not going to reignite growth. Still, GoPuff partnering with Shopify is a much better approach than Instacart did, acquiring Unata and trying to run someone's grocery e-commerce site, however. GoPuff should stick to logistics, and Shopify sticks to e-commerce. The new Shopify store, unlike a truly bespoke store for a brand, would likely encourage CPG brands to add in Instacart, DoorDash, or Uber to the store too, right? All this would be good for Shopify and not so much good for GoPuff. There is no notion that the Shopify GoPuff partnership is exclusive to GoPuff. And remember who is on the board of directors of Shopify itself? That's right, the CEO of Instacart. All told, for Shopify, this reinforces the narrative that Shopify works very well for quick little storefronts you need that are fit for purpose. The fact that this is for enterprise brands lets them make sideways claims about penetrating enterprise too. And for GoPuff, this is no savior. The most likely outcome for them is still an acquisition or merger with Instacart, DoorDash, or Uber in the long run. And keep in mind, the company raised over $3 billion. Do you think there was even $1 of true EBIT profitability in GoPuff? Me neither. Investors are going to need more than this to be made whole. As a result, my thought is that if there's a winner here, it's Shopify and not GoPuff. And if to reinforce that, I messaged this about LinkedIn the other day, and I got a message from more than one CPG brand that said they were evaluating Shopify as a result of this partnership, but that had nothing to do with GoPuff. And our last story. Macy's kicks off its store closings. It's like the activist investors ended up winning at Macy's. And let me give you some clue. Most of the time they do, unless the company is extremely well run or prepared far in advance, trusted in companies like Meta and Shopify where the founders have supermajority shares. A report from Retail Dive indicated that of the 150 Macy's stores that are going to close, 50 of those closings are happening in 2024. And Macy's is being fairly aggressive with these closings, as their CEO, Tony Spring, has said that even some cash flow positive stores are closing. In other words, it sounds to me that if Macy's can't generate more cash from the real estate than another tenant occupying the same space, then Macy's will exit that space. That kind of metric sounds like a warning shot across the bow of retailers across America, if you ask me. Retail investors want a return on those investments, and even a big name like Macy's is not going to save you. Now a word from our sponsor, Commerce Tools. When a multi-billion-dollar beauty brand's e-commerce platform neared the end of its life, the entire business was at risk, including the ability to serve customers. By switching to Commerce Tools and embracing a more flexible mock architecture, the retailer's vision for connecting in-store and personalized shopping experiences became a reality. The brand can now roll out new features within days, securing its position as a modern brand that uses technology to its advantage. If you're being held hostage by your technology platform and your developers have thrown up their hands, tell them to start a free trial at commercetools.com today. It's that time, friends, for our Investor Minute. We have 5 items on the menu today. First, Saks.com receives liquidity from lenders. Saks.com has received funding from Pathlight, Bank of America, and Story 3 Capital Partners to enhance its liquidity and maintain low debt levels. 3 years after investing in private equity, they received funding from lenders. Second, Amify acquired by Cart.com. Cart.com has acquired Amazon agency Amify for an undisclosed amount. This will enable Cart.com to grow its managed services business and target mid-market and enterprise brands that sell on Amazon. It seems likely that this agency was looking for a home, and Cart.com is looking to grow its seller-fulfilled Prime business since the company has the logistics focus. Third, Delivery Collective raises $3.8 million. Delivery infrastructure marketplace Delivery Collective has raised $3.8 million, which will be used to expand operations. Helping restaurants offer delivery directly to their customers enables better profitability and retention. Fourth, G2 Reverse Logistics raises $9.6 million in seed funding. End-to-end reverse logistics platform G2 Reverse Logistics has raised $9.6 million in seed funding, which will increase sales, marketing, and headcount. The founders of the platform already exited with Genco, a returns management platform acquired in 2015 by FedEx for $1.6 billion. Does the world need another returns provider at this stage with the market consolidating? And finally, MDF Commerce acquired by KKR and to be taken private. Canadian public procurement services company MDF Commerce has been acquired by KKR for Canadian $255 million. And this will be taken private subject to shareholder approval. MDF Commerce is expected to be optimized in the next 12 months. Did you know that RMW Commerce has a brand new podcast? Check out the Watson Weekend for an unfiltered and lively e-commerce chat each week with me, Rick Watson, my co-host, Jess Lasewski, and an array of interesting guests and topics, all focused on e-commerce. You can find the Watson Weekend by searching for it on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. And today's word of the week for this week is trading down. I wanted to relate a personal story about trading down. In the past 5 or 6 years, I've been a big fan of Bombas, wearing them almost exclusively for business and personal use. Well, I was searching for running socks on there because my last Bombas finally wore out and got to the checkout and was frozen in my tracks. 6 pairs of socks for freaking $74. What in the actual hell? Hell to the no, I'm not going to be paying 6 pairs for $12 each. What do I do next? Of course, go to Amazon. Quick search, 6 socks, $14. Amazon Prime 1 day. Thank you very much. For the Bombas price, I could donate 6 pairs of socks myself for every 1 pair that Bombas donates. And let this be a warning for other direct-to-consumer brands that have gotten ahead of themselves. Sure, it's a great product, but let's not get carried away. It's still just socks. That's all for this week. Till next time, Watsonians. Hi, I'm Rick Watson, CEO and founder of RMW Commerce Consulting and host of the Watson Weekly Podcast, your essential e-commerce digest. Our production partner for the series is Citizen Race Car. The show is produced by Jose Baez. Production manager, Gabriela Montequin. To hear new episodes of the show every Monday morning, subscribe now at rmwcommerce.com/Watson Weekly and wherever you get your podcasts.